Welcome to Fuck Around and Get Paid. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who believe that fun is not a distraction from success. It is your actual strategy. Around here, we build businesses that create more impact, more income, and help you to get paid to be fully yourself. Today, we're going to talk about the secret to a joy-first business, what that means, and why the things that you loved as a kid actually matter in business and in the way that you get paid. Let's dive in. What if your greatest gifts, your most natural talents, the work that you actually came here to do, and the greatest impact that you came here to make as a human being isn't something that you need to find at all, but actually something that you get to remember? And I have one question for you for this episode is, what did you love as a child? Pause for just a second. Ask yourself this question. What is something that I loved to do as a child? And I'll tell you for myself, the thing that came to mind when I asked this question recently is I loved to lay on the grass. My dad was an expert lawn care enthusiast. He definitely mowed his lawn a certain way. And I still to this day have never mowed a lawn because my dad would not let any of us kids touch his lawn. And then when I grew up and Joey and I bought a house, I said, you know what? I'm just never going to mow a lawn because I never have and I just never will. And so he always mowed the lawn and I never did. However, I do love a good chunk of luscious, beautiful grass. And as a kid, I used to love to lay on that thick grass and then squish my fingers between the blades of grass onto the cool earth. You know that feeling. It feels so good. I also loved to ride my bicycle. And when I think about riding my bicycle as a kid, the specific thing that comes to mind is the way the wind was blowing in my hair and the way the wind just hit my face and the tassels on my little pink Huffy bike. They were kind of metallic. And so they would just light in the wind and just the way that that felt. So I asked this question in our community last week. I said, what did you love to do as a kid? And it was so fun because the chat just lit up with people. And I'm just going to read some of them to you because some of them might spark something for you or maybe even reflect what you just thought of for yourself. So Abby said, I loved playing teacher. I had a desk, a whiteboard, a chalkboard, and would make lesson plans for my dolls and our cats and dogs. They were quite the students, I must say. She said that love and desire is 100% coming back to me in life right now. And I think about that often. Carmen said, I loved reading outside in the forest or by the stream. It felt like I stepped into a completely different world. And that's so interesting to me because there were no forests and no streams where I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. Terry said, I loved making little houses out of shoe boxes for my troll dolls, creating the furniture and making the accessories and their clothes. I also loved reading and immersing myself in the books and going on biking adventures. Tanya said, I always loved experimenting with all sorts of stuff. I love being outside and planting and seeing what seeds liked to grow where. Isn't that so fascinating? Paige said, one of my favorite things to do was measuring mud puddles. My favorite way was with my shoes, but my mom convinced me to use an umbrella instead. One of my friends and I would do it after school at the corner of the parking lot that had big puddles. Did you notice anything about any of these? Notice anything about your own thing, my thing, any of these things that people said they love to do as kids? Well, you might notice nobody said, I dreamed of becoming a marketing consultant. I dreamed of optimizing CRMs. I dreamed of that someday I would have to set up a payment processor. I dreamed of all of these business related things, right? Because doing business things is not what we're actually built for as human beings. None of these people even went back to saying, like, I wanted to be whatever. This question that we ask kids when they're very young, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody responded with that. It was all these things that we loved to do, because what we are wired for as human beings is to experience and to contribute. And that's where we actually build businesses from. But we get this really backwards. So I want to share, the other day on the 4th, we had a friend in town, and there's this thing that I've been doing, which is so different from what I did for many, many years, that when we vacation with people, or when people are here coming to Oregon and vacationing with us, I put my needs before theirs. And for most of my life, when we would vacation with other people would be around, I would bend over to just make sure that they were happy. And I came to this realization a couple of years ago that it was like, oh my gosh, no, 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 no. They will be happier when I am happy. So I slept until I needed to sleep. And there were moments where I just said, I'm going to go take Alfred for a walk by myself. And I'm just going to go get some time by myself, because that is something that I need, especially if people are staying in our home with us. I love them so much. And I am a 6'2" in human design. I've straight up got that 2 line hermit. I am a hermit crab and I need time to myself. So on the 4th, I'm walking Alfred, and I had this strong desire to pull over to the side of the path and to put my fingers in that dirt. And it's because I had asked this question to everybody, what's something you love to do? And that's what had come to me. So I did it. I took off my socks and my shoes, and I just felt my fingers hit that dirt, and I felt so connected and so grounded. And I felt my entire nervous system just do this massive exhale. In fact, I just laid and I starfished on that grass. And Alfred took a nice big deep breath in, and he laid down with me, and we just enjoyed ourselves. And it reminded me of how good it feels to connect to the earth. It reminded me of just how beautiful it is to feel that glorious sense of release when your nervous system exhales. I've loved that my entire life. I've also loved the feeling of the wind just blowing in my hair, and that feeling of exhilaration, and of, like going down a hill really fast and then accomplishing, like riding up the hill. That has always been so fun to me. And so my business does all of these things, right? The work that I do is very grounding work. I help people to build internal safety so that they can do these exhilarating, fun things, so that they can have freedom in their business. And I built that into my business as well. I help people really ground themselves into what is it that I desire. I help them discover what they want and to build these businesses that seriously feel like true, exhilarating freedom, that feels like fun, so that we can fuck around and get paid, right? That is what I have built. So when I go back to my childhood, and I hope you can see this as a really powerful example for yourself of, oh, those feelings are actually what I am here to contribute. And that's what I mean when I say joy is your strategy, because my business creates this grounded sense of freedom for me. And then because I have done that for myself, I'm able to do it for other people. I don't sell coaching. I don't sell business systems. I sell an exhale. I sell safety in the exhilaration. I sell a deliciously grounded nervous system, reconnection back to the earth, back to the ground, back to yourself. I sell permission to get out there and just ride your bicycle as fast as you want to, right? And that's exactly what little Jennifer loved to do. So what did little you love to do? Because I've also incorporated so many things into my business. Writing newsletters. I had a newsletter called The Red Hots. I love to do podcast interviews. And in previous podcasts, I have interviewed people. I love to go on other people's podcasts and interview. I had a fake show called the Jessie B Show when I was a kid. I love being silly, having fun, giving play-by-plays. All of these are things that are now incorporated into my business. And I have done this by design. And so we make this massive mistake in the way that we make money. So I say this specifically to business owners and entrepreneurship. However, this is in general in the way that we do jobs, in the way that we look at what we do in the world, the job titles that we have will ask questions like, what job should I have? What business should I start? But the starting point, that's the wrong starting point. The best starting point is instead to ask, what experiences have I always loved? What have I always loved to feel? And that's where we start from. When we start from that, the childhood experiences that you had, it's not always literal. Sometimes it is, right? A couple of people said in the expansion room, I love teaching, and they did become teachers. But here's the thing, my friends, we will burn out on a job like teaching if we forget or stop leaning into what was it that you loved about teaching? Because when you move from that place, then it's like, oh, you'll see new opportunities to teach in a new way. And you might be on that path. It could be what led you to coaching. It could be what has led you to many other things, is what is it that you loved about the teaching? Because it's not about the thing. It's not about the bicycle. It's not about the ground. It's not about the grass. It's symbolic. It's about the feeling. So for a teacher, just a few examples here that I was thinking through. For a teacher, it's about the teaching, right? That's a natural gift for many people. My little niece, who is 5 years old, she is a natural teacher. I've seen her teaching her little sister. She explains things. She guides her. She helps people to understand. Sometimes that might be the thing that you love about teaching, is actually seeing the light turn on for somebody else. It might be that you like to communicate in a fun and interesting way. So what is it about the teaching when you experience it? And it's a felt sense, guys. It's something that we often can't explain, but can go back and feel. When I think about Paige, who had said I liked to measure the mud puddles, it's like, that's experimentation. That's being resourceful. That's recognizing that you like to know how much of something. It's a really creative way of looking at things. Not everybody even thinks about how deep that mud puddle is, but that's the thing that you thought about. For Carmen, who loves reading in the woods, it's about creating worlds. It's about depth. It's about peace, right? When we go into the woods, like, so what is it for you? There could be actually two people who loved reading in the woods, but the feelings that you loved are actually completely different feelings, right? So your curiosities and your play are seriously your literal contribution to the world. It's the thing that you came here and you're like, ooh, it's so fun for me to experience these things. It's also so fun for other people to experience those things too. And so when you create the opportunity for other people to have that, they will throw their money at you, right? Like we're throwing money at peace, at ease, at relaxation all day, every day. And I was using this example in a cohort a few weeks ago of like, people will pay for peace in a beer after work, but they will also pay for peace in so many other ways, right? So it's all about the kind of peace that somebody is looking for. So I don't care if you are working in corporate, if you're building a business, it is the same. Your joy is your strategy. You're the things that you love, the things that you love to feel It is your contribution. And the more that you get of it, the more you can give of it. So the activity itself can be helpful, like recognizing, oh, I love to ride my bike, but more helpful when it comes to starting a business, when it comes to contribution, when it comes to the value that you create, is the feeling that is underneath it. What is it that you loved about it? And then what does that indicate about who you are? What does that indicate about what you could possibly create? Because here's the thing about kids. Children are so naturally tapped into their intuition. They naturally seek experiences that regulate their systems. Just like animals, you can watch dogs do things naturally that regulate them. They run around and do the zoomies and shake it all off before they go to bed. And then as human beings, we wonder why we have to take ZQuil when we just try to go to bed and don't do nervous system practices before we get in bed. So next time that you're having trouble sleeping, maybe consider getting up, shaking it out, and doing what an animal might do, releasing that energy that's keeping you awake, right? So kids get this naturally. They have not yet been taught what is practical and what is like the normal thing to do. They just naturally do the things that bring them joy. They do the things naturally that bring them peace, that bring them ease, that bring them enthusiasm. They already know what it feels like to feel good. And often as adults, because of all of this conditioning, we just have to take the time to remember. And once you do, it unlocks this magical castle. And with all of these rooms that you get to explore, and it's like, oh my goodness, what could I build around this? So I've built my business around those feelings, around that feeling of putting my fingers in the dirt, around the feeling of me getting on my bicycle and feeling the wind in my hair. I get to teach, I get to write, I get to speak, I get to tell silly stories, I get to laugh a lot, I get to be outside, I get to travel. All of these things are built into my business. I get to have weird conversations about unicorns and nervous systems and spirituality and go on rants, all kinds of things, right? And so people will ask me, like, how do you stay so consistent? Friends will say, how have you, you continue to show up on social media, you've continued to build this business. The truth is that I have not built my business around obligation and around even discipline, really, unless you consider my discipline my delight. I'm building it around my fun, around my joy, and around my delight. And if it does not delight me, I'm not doing it. And so that doesn't mean that I don't sometimes do hard things, because again, I like to ride that bike up the hill, but it's got to be attached to something exhilarating and something really, really fun for me. So for you, I want you to hone in on, what is this for you? What if making money wasn't about me becoming more impressive? What if, in fact, it's not actually about making money at all? Because truly, money is just an exchange for value. It's just an exchange for the contribution that you are making. So the things that lit you up as a kid, it reveals these experiences that you're here to create for others. And there is nothing more high value than joy. And anything that is in the expression of love. So whether that's joy, peace, ease, freedom, care, anything in those vibrations are going to be of high value, and people will happily throw their money at you when you position it and you communicate it and you give it to them in the right way, at the right place, at the right time. All of those things that we help you with in building a business, if that's something that you want to do, that I love to work with people on. But it really starts here. And if you're not starting here, then I can't work with you on your business, because this is what matters the most. And it's why we've created a community and a place where you can come and learn this with us and can really start to implement this and to be surrounded by other people who are doing this too. So if this episode, if this conversation reminded you that making money in a way that you love gets to feel like that, like gets to help you feel like a kid again, it gets to actually bring you joy, then I would love for you to come inside with us where I get to teach you how to get paid to be you and to build a joy first business that creates more income and more impact and a hell of a lot more fun. You can go to jenliss.com/expansion and get started with us. It's only $27 a month to really start applying joy as your strategy, implementing this into your life every single day. And then if you want to come deeper, if you're at that point of like really implementing it in your business, I would love to speak with you about that too. So just go to jenliss.com/expansion and come get started with us. I'd love to see you inside. And regardless, so thrilled to have you in this community and one of the people who is out here doing things differently, because that's what we need are the leaders, the trailblazers, the people who are getting out there and being willing to blaze a new trail with joy as your strategy. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Go to Apple Podcasts, scroll all the way to the bottom and leave me a review with your honest thoughts about what you love about this podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.